Edward Steichen said, "The mission of photography is to explain man to man, and each man to himself." Nowhere is this as true as in photojournalism. Photojournalism reveals to us who we are, brings us the world in ways that we've never seen, and shows us a side of life we've never experienced. Whether in a jungle, battlefield, or concert hall, photojournalists act as our eyes, seeing, recording, and commenting about the world around us. Photojournalism has taught and inspired us through its elegant compositions, its courageous showdowns, its tender recollections. It is more than news. It is a way of life. If you're successful, you can bring the world to the world. Photojournalism isn't all running into the fray and ducking bullets. Photojournalists need to spend time with and get to know their subjects.
You working hard? Good. What are you doing? Just helping out, right?
It takes more than a camera to capture your subject's intimacies. You first need to make people feel relaxed and comfortable. Only then can you record their lives. A knowledge of photography, a creative mind and eye, the courage to face and record. These are the keys to a photojournalist's success.
People think of photojournalism, they think of violence. They think of fires. They think of shootings. They think of a big city like this. They think of protests. They think a lot of noise and things like that. Life is made up of many pieces of a puzzle. And some of those pieces are violence, some of them are pain, but then some of them are peace, some of them are love, some are quietness. And these people are right here in the shadows of the world's tallest buildings catching a fish. Photojournalism to me mirrors all of those things. And the nice thing is that it mirrors it on a daily basis. I'm in a profession where the language of what I'm doing, the world speaks, anybody in the world speaks.
The camera is omnipresent in our culture. Images, I think, drive it, and photojournalism continues, despite all the changes and the seeming ebb of interest in the written word. It remains very integral to our culture, and it remains, I think, a large part of the footprint that we'll leave in time. Photojournalism to me is it's incredibly important in terms of framing my time on this earth, or anyone's time. If I remember anything about the history that I've witnessed, I remember still photography. If I remember monumental events, elections, assassinations, wars, all of those things, my memory is absolutely fixed in still images.
It does not need words to tell what it's all about. It tells you who, what, when, why. A good photograph communicates and tells you exactly what's going on. Everyone can't be in the same place at the same time, so our purpose is to tell the story visually.
You watch a film on television or in a theater, and once that film is over, it's over. Where a still photograph will end up in a history book on the front page, and you can study it, and it's that moment. It will implant in your memory, and you will do something about it. It doesn't go away. It will stay with you forever.
The best of photojournalists have always had a passion for the truth, have had a passion for being there, have had a passion for the image that will take an event and sum it up and be representative in a truthful way of what they've seen, what they've witnessed. That's what drives the whole medium. That's what drives photographers in particular. I think, you know, year after year you see people there. There's no way you would get people doing what they do, taking the risks that they take, going to the lengths that they go to record history, unless it was, you know, a consummate passion on their part.
I'm not a photographer who puts pictures in galleries, because I say, you know, the whole world is my gallery. When I get a picture on the front page or I get a cover of a magazine, that's my gallery. I'm reaching more people that way. And we don't know who looks at the pictures, and a lot of times good things happen from the photograph, and that's pretty cool.
You can't overestimate the importance of preparation. In photojournalism, you're dealing with many uncontrollable variables. It's essential to be ready for the moment when these variables align to give you a photographic opportunity. Your camera should always be loaded, and you should have backup equipment in case something goes wrong. If possible, check the shooting location in advance to assess the lighting and decide where to shoot from. Many times, selecting your location is the most important thing you do. Remember, it's always harder to chase the action. If you have the chance, let it come to you.
This is the hearing room that we'll be in this morning. The senators will be sitting up here. They will be questioning the witness, Anthony Lake. My spot will be with my cohorts down here on the floor. We'll work this area, both photographing the witness and the senators from both in front and from the sides. The witness will be seated at this table, Anthony Lake, who is up for CIA director. We can work either side of the room. We can work the back of the room. Most of what we'll be doing is from this, what's called the pit. The senators will begin coming in. They will greet the nominee either at the table or up at the dais here. My colleagues and I will be photographing during this whole time. We are trying to get something other than just a microphone shot. We need something for an editor to look at that is different from just a microphone shot. We're looking for the relationship between the committee members and the nominee. After the hearing is gaveled to order, we will all be at that point on the floor and concentrating more on the question and answers of the nominee himself. Local knowledge can be important up to a point. There also will be new and different things that happen each time we have a hearing. So it's not all set in stone.
Committee will come to order. We will continue on our first round on the committee. There were a number of senators that didn't even get to ask their first round of questions, Dr. Lake, yesterday. Senator Hatch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, Mr. Lake, I stated yesterday that I come at this from a position that I want to support your nomination, and I think you know that. I've expressed that to you, but I do want to ask some tough questions. You resigned from the Nixon administration in 1970 because you thought the Vietnam War was, in your words, quote, a terrible mistake, unquote.
in making the necessary balance that one has to do between, on the one hand, saying, yes, the information that can be developed is in the national interest and is extremely important to us.
You haven't addressed
And on the other-
publicly the role that you expect to play with respect to the cabinet, whether or not you expect to have cabinet status, and if so.
It has to be the case in which not only the senior leadership says do hard things, but the personnel systems have to reward them in their careers. And I want to review the personnel systems to make sure that's the case as well.
Getting to the assignment. You can be 2 hours early, but you can't be 1 minute late. So the first thing is get there. Look at the lay of the land. Establish where you want to be, where the subject's going to be. That can be if it's a demonstration, if it's a hearing, if it's a press conference, no matter what. If you have to nail down a position for yourself, do that. What else do? You take the proper equipment with you. You be self-reliant. You have to take everything you want with you and know what you're going to want for that given situation. That's learned through experience.
You should make a list of indispensable items to keep in your office or car. Remember, it's up to you to get the shots you need, so don't be afraid to use all the resources you can get your hands on. Being prepared also means doing more than just a simple background check on your subject. It means thorough research. It means getting to know your subject inside and out, their mannerisms, habits, and tendencies.
I think anytime you work in close proximity with either a group of photographers or a group of individuals, be they senators, members of the House of Representatives, members of the administration, at the White House, as you frequent that location and those people more, then you will in fact breed a certain amount of bond with them. That becomes important not just for your access, not for your entree to getting to them, but also for your understanding of who they are, for your understanding of how their position, what their position is on an issue, how that relates through the photographs that you're doing. If you don't have that bond, it becomes very difficult, and many times the photographs that you produce can be very superficial. And you're just using the person in front of you as a two-dimensional object.
It's not enough to just be a photographer and know your camera, and you should know that very well. But you have to know the players in the atmosphere or the environment in which you are a player. A good photojournalist is, in my opinion, a jack of all trades. You should be or have some knowledge of many, many subjects so that you can, through your photographs, tell a story. If you're photographing, as we did at the White House, covering the president and certain visitors coming in, know their mannerisms, because certain people will do certain things unconsciously, and you should know that and be ready for it when it happens. I have a photograph of Jimmy Carter. Used to do this a lot, and you're ready for it. You're not only a photographer, but you are a reporter, which makes you a true photojournalist, that you must come back with answer to all the questions. Who is this person? What it's all about? What is their title? What's going on? And all the names and places spelled correctly. So a lot of photographers don't think that. They think that they just take pictures. But you're as much a reporter when you're a photojournalist as the scribe is. You answer those questions yourself and write them down. Probably one of the most important subjects I ever had was psychology and understanding people. Now let's go forward to 1967, March on the Pentagon. Young man appears with flowers into a sea of troops. Army, war, peacenik, flowers, there has to be something happen. I positioned myself because I knew human nature, that something was going to happen there. And one of the demonstrators did take a rifle away from one of the soldiers. One soldier lost his helmet, and then this young man just puts the flower down the rifle barrel. I was one of 2 photographers that really got a shot at that. But I was prepared because I knew human nature and these 2 opposing forces. Something had to happen. I didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew something important had to happen, and I was ready for it.
While planning and preparation are obvious assets to any assignment, state-of-the-art technology can make a photographer's job easier, simpler, and more enjoyable.
For me, it's kind of embarrassing sometimes when I'm with other photographers who sometimes I'll see them and take their equipment out and it's very pristine and looks like it just came across the camera counter, and is brand new. My equipment tends to get used and abused and battered fairly quickly. I use the gear. I mean, I see it as a tool to get a job done, basically. There's the British photographer Donald McCullen years and years ago said something about cameras. He said, I only use a camera like a toothbrush. It gets the job done.
Then there are situations where a photojournalist needs to rely fully on the sophistication of his equipment. In the Russian space station Star City, for instance, Joe McNally's battle with the ill effects of zero gravity prevented him from operating the camera as he normally would.
I arrive on a job with a minimum of two camera bodies. You must have a backup. Things happen.
People say, well, every time I see you, you have your camera. I said, because it's a part of me. I take pictures, that's why I have it.
A camera needs to be many things to a photojournalist. It has to be rugged to survive the hustle and daily grind of news shooting. It needs to be inconspicuous so you can record a scene without interrupting the action or frightening the subject matter. Many great candid shots have been lost when the subject reacts to the presence of the camera. A camera must also be your ally in the heat of the action, not your enemy. It must have the capability of taking a string of quality pictures in rapid succession. The Nikon F5, for instance, can take 8 frames per second, nearly 60% faster than any other 35mm camera.
The bottom line is that, you could have all the desires in the world to do this, and you could have all the lighting situation to do this, and you could have the greatest smile in the world, and the greatest sunrise in the world, and the greatest anything in the world. But unless you have the tool to capture it, it's only captured in the heart and the eye. And that's not enough, and that's where we go beyond, and that's where you have to write the tool. When I picked this camera up, it was like a whole new connection. Just the way it feels. Before I even saw any of the features, I knew I felt it was like made for me. And I'm out there, and it just, I don't like I said, I don't think it was it's just an extension. Because now I can look at life and see those slices of life. And whatever I want, I got it.
Go back to sports photography, and it's a very important part of photojournalism. The Olympics, the new Nikon F5 with its rapid fire and tracking capability. There is no way that the top sports photographer in the world can take as many good exposures, sharp exposures, on a downhill skier or a gymnast going through their fast actions as that new camera can do.
There are a number of preferred lenses photojournalists can use on the job to enhance their performance even further. The Nikon 18-28 AF Nikkor has an exceptionally wide angle of view and outstanding image quality. It also enables you to focus within a foot, so it's very useful in environmental photos where you want a dominant foreground object. The 20 to 35 2.8 AF zoom Nikon from Nikon is an incredibly sharp and fast wide-angle zoom. This versatile lens allows you to record a broader pictorial range, anything from portraits to architecture. Practically speaking, zoom lenses allow you to frame your shot exactly the way you want, without changing your position. The new 24 to 120 3.5 to 5.6 AF zoom Nikon is extremely versatile, covering everything from classic portraits to extreme wide angles. In fact, Popular Photography recently announced that the lens was the most outstanding large ratio zoom lens ever tested by the magazine, and that it was available at an incredibly low price. The recognized workhorse lens for most photojournalists is the 80 to 200 2.8 AF zoom Nikon, one of the world's fastest telephoto zoom lenses. It covers about 75% of a photojournalist's needs. This lens covers them all, and covers them fast. The Nikon 300 2.8 AF-S Nikon is ideal for isolated portraits at political forums, to local sports coverage, to search and rescue stories. This advanced telephoto lens features Nikon's silent wave technology for whisper-quiet operation, so you can work in close without disrupting the proceedings. A Nikon teleconverter will increase the focal length of virtually any Nikon SLR lens, including zoom lenses. Conveniently, they can be mounted in seconds between the lens and the camera. The Nikon TC20E teleconverter is a popular choice among photojournalists, since it adds extended versatility without significant cost increase or luggage. The multi-control back MF28 is another beneficial accessory for photojournalists. This optional camera back records on your film a copyright symbol, the date, and the photographer's name up to 22 characters.
In photojournalism, in fast-moving situations, there is not time to change lenses. So you want a different lens on a couple of bodies. The zoom lens is a godsend because it gives you many focal lengths in one. But you do want wide angle and up through a medium telephoto at hand and ready to go.
Fast subjects mean fast films used at fast shutter speeds. Fast films have higher ISOs, ISO 400 for example. The more sensitive a film is to light, or how fast it is, the less light is needed to reproduce an image. Bear in mind, fast films feature an enhanced grain structure. There's a good rule of thumb when determining the slowest shutter speed at which you can handhold an SLR camera. Determine the speed nearest to the reciprocal of the focal length of the lens. For example, a 60mm lens can be safely handheld at 1/60th of a second.
You've got to understand what the lighting is going to be. Again, fortunately in Washington, and most hearings around the country, lights are set up pretty normal in that at 400 ASA, it's going to be 125th at 2.8 or f4. It can vary. And most office buildings are at 400, 125th at 2.8. That's something you learn through doing it.
In photojournalism, you don't have the advantage of controlling light in a studio. You have to be ready with the right equipment to best take advantage of the available light. Using flash helps you get your shot regardless of lighting situations. Flash helps you create light indoors and fill shadows outdoors. You should use flash when the lighting conditions are less than optimal, when the available lighting gives the wrong effect, or when creative lighting is needed for storytelling effect.
The setup for the portrait of Senator Leahy is fairly simple, and God knows I have to keep it simple. I'm using a single light today, triggering it with the light on camera. I want to use this as my main light into an umbrella for the chair so that I can light the side of his face. I have about f5.6 with an ASA 100 film. Using the daylight coming in the window as the fill. Uh-oh.
Remember, as a photojournalist, you usually won't want to get too creative with light. You are primarily concerned with realism, so make sure the lighting you choose is natural, unobtrusive, and most importantly, in keeping with the subject. By this time, you've already picked up a lot of compositional hints. Fill the frame with the subject. Select uncomplicated backgrounds. Whether or not to have your subject make eye contact with the camera is another major compositional decision. Some editors feel that eye contact is unnatural. It shows the photographer altering or intruding on the news. But often, eye contact can evoke a sense of intimacy or revelation which would otherwise be lost. The type of camera angle is another important compositional choice a photojournalist must make.
Composition, lighting plays a big role in the photograph, and it's going back to studying the masters and the artists. Lighting, the plasticity of a face, that creates a mood, whether it's dramatic or soft. If you don't want harsh lighting on a lady's face, you want to depict that as softness and roundness. You want angle. You don't want to exaggerate features with the choice of a wrong lens. You want to include props that tell what it's all about. You want to fill the frame. You want, if it's an environmental portrait, you want things that speak of that person in it. There's a lot that goes into a photograph to make it pleasing, and it's a subconscious thing that you do. You do it so much that you just sort of put elements together.
And I think that's one reason, too, that we should shoot so much film, because if you turn a quarter inch, it's a different picture, another half inch this way. And it means a lot in a picture. And some people say, well, you're bound to get something out of 300 frames or 7,000 frames. I know photographers who shoot 10,000 frames and don't get a picture. I mean, it's not the question of shooting the film. It's a question of just having more to select from, because sometimes your pictures get better, just by when a person moves, or you just try to wait for the right time.
But these tips will only help you if you get out in the field. There are two major types of news: spot news and feature news. Your job will be to get to the scene as quickly as possible to cover it.
I mean, getting there, like in Chicago, is a trip. I mean, you get through traffic, you get through cops, you get through people, you get through weather. Getting there, I mean, there should be awards for getting there. And then you're dealing with, I mean, every time the phone rings, you're going somewhere you haven't been before, basically. You're in a situation that's entirely different. I mean, you could do a fire 1 hour and a reception the next. And you're crying 1 hour and you're laughing the next. I mean, all the emotions of life a photojournalist feels and shares. And all in a day, you see. And then you get there and it's not waiting for you. Things are happening, people are laughing or people are dying. And instantly you connect with that and you capture it. Then you have to get back. A reporter, for instance, could do that same thing on the phone. Call the neighbor and say, what was happening? You can't do that in photojournalism. You have to have a front seat to it. Front seat, you're eyewitness.
Feature news can be planned for in advance. It's anything from a story about a local high school talent show to an interview with a politician or athlete. Feature news really gives you a chance to shine creatively, since you have more time to control the scene. But make sure this control doesn't cross the line to making news rather than recording it. Photojournalists have ethical considerations to keep in mind. It's their duty to report the news objectively.
A true news photograph, one should not editorialize in it. You should photograph what is there. I am totally against setting up a news picture. Now, you can enhance it by setting it up, but I don't think that it is my job to put my feelings in a photograph. Again, I guess I do it by choice of angle and choice of lens. And in the old days when I did it by printing a picture in lightening and darkening. But I don't think it is my place in a true news photograph to add props to it to make it say what I want it to say. If it's not there, leave it alone. Our primary job in photographing an event is to communicate to the reader. Our artistic job is to make it a pleasing picture. We bring to our photographs our life's experiences. You cannot get away from that. That is what makes us individual photographers, because subconsciously you are pulling upon things that have happened throughout your life. That causes me to be a certain type of photographer and my colleague on the other side, or the other paper public, be a certain type of photographer. We're not clones. Yes, there is a part of us in every photograph we take. You use lighting, you use camera angle, you use lens, you use exposure, all of those elements in your craft to help your picture, but don't go out of your way to make it something that it isn't. Do an honest job of what is there. Let your reader form their opinion from as honest a shot that you can take.
Being a photojournalist for me is, the bottom line is shooting. I'm happiest when I'm shooting, almost to the exclusion of what the subject is. I am happiest with the camera in my hand, addressing that challenge of producing a photograph for someone to see who wasn't where I was, who wasn't experiencing what I was experiencing.
Last year I went from photographing Michelle Pfeiffer to photographing in Rwanda and Zaire. So it's an enormously diverse way not only to make a living, but also it's enormously interesting and diverse way to sort of take on the world. I mean, how you form your opinions about it, what interests you, what drives you, what motivates you to keep going. I've never been driven by a particular passion for a particular geographic area or type of person or people or place. I've always been driven by, frankly, it sounds kind of hokey, but just the sheer love of being a photographer and encountering the things that I do. Because on many levels there's no other reason to put up with it, believe me, other than you really do truly love it.
The photojournalist sees the eye of the heart, the eye of the soul, through a different window.
Its role is to tell a story visually, to give people who are not privileged to be at a particular event, a scene, give them the eyes and the ears of being there. Tell the story.
Push, we click the shutter and we capture life.
A camera is a very powerful weapon. That's stronger than anything else, I think, in the world in terms of real power. So what you have there, that little box can do a lot of things.
To learn more about Nikon, look into the complete Nikon School Video Learning Series. All Nikon School videos, including others in the Masters series, are available by calling 1-800-55-NIKON. There's also Nikon World Portfolio Magazine. Subscribe by calling 1-800-NIKON-US. And of course, there's the Nikon School itself, a comprehensive audio and visual presentation put on by professional instructors. The Nikon School visits almost all major cities at least once a year. Simply call 516-547-8666 for complete information. We've enjoyed bringing you this special Master's Video edition of Nikon School. We hope the information we've presented will help you start making the world's greatest pictures. Yours,